The game of baseball, more than any other sport, is completely filled with numbers. From statistics like ISO, FIP, OPS plus, WOBA, spin axis, spin rate. All these different things contribute to the game of baseball. But for a casual fan or someone just getting into the game, it can get extremely complex. And when you have people like Brian Kinney on MLB Tonight throwing around all these types of numbers, you have to wonder, what do these statistics mean? What are the values in them? And how are they even calculated? So here on 3 Up 3 Down, I want to put together a package of videos to understand some of the more in-depth and advanced metrics in baseball analytics. And today we're going to start with talking about one that I quote all the time on this channel, but I wonder how many people truly understand its value and where it comes from, and that is OPS plus. What is it? What is its weaknesses? What are its strengths? How is it used in the game of baseball? Let's check it out. Let's go. OPS plus stands for on base plus slugging plus. So what does this all mean? Well, on base plus slugging, we have to look at the actual statistics and understand what on base percentage is and what slugging percentage is, because they're a huge point of OPS plus. On base percentage is all about the player's ability to get on base, and that's how it's calculated. To calculate on base percentage, it's hits plus walks plus hit by pitch, a player's ability to get on base, divide by at bats, walks, hit by pitch, and sac flies. When calculated this way, a player's ability to get on base does not matter. A walk is equal to a double, a triple, a home run. There's no understanding of the damage the player does during at bat, only the simple fact that the player got on base. So that is a weakness of on base percentage. A leadoff single is the same as a leadoff walk. A home run is the same as a 2-out walk. In these situations, the on-base percentage is going to be 1,000, one time on base for one at bat. So on-base percentage does carry weakness in that way, but is a far more useful statistic than batting average, which doesn't incorporate walks into it at all. The other piece we have to look at is slugging percentage. Now, slugging percentage does calculate the at-bat and how the ball was hit. We look at 1 point for a single, 2 points for a double, 3 points for a triple, 4 points for a home run. So total bases of a player divided by at-bats. Once again, slugging percentage does not take into effect walks, but when we incorporate with the on-base percentage combined with slugging, which we'll get to later, makes a lot more sense. However, what this is saying is that a home run is worth 4 times as much as a single. And when you break out and really get into the depths of statistics in baseball, we actually find that that isn't true in terms of run creation. But that's for our later statistic. So slugging percentage is all about how many bases per at bat, as opposed to on base percentage, which is the player's ability to get on base per at bat. A league average on base percentage sits around 330. Above average is around 350 to 380. And an elite on base percentage is over 400. In terms of slugging, a league average slugging percentage sits around 430. Above average starts to move into that 450 range, with the elite hitters going over 500 typically. Now, on-base percentage and slugging percentage are so important because they create the statistic OPS, on base plus slugging, which is a very simple calculation. You just add together a player's on-base percentage and a slugging percentage, and you have their OPS, which is what we need to be able to calculate their OPS plus. So OPS is a player's ability to reach base and hit for average and power when you combine it all together. An average OPS sits around 720 to 750, depending on the year in the league. Above average is in the 8 to 900 range, and an elite hitter is going to have an OPS over 900, with the best of the best well over 1,000. So you put it all together, we have our on-base percentage, we have our slugging percentage, we combine them, we have our OPS on-base plus slugging, and then we can start to calculate OPS plus. And OPS plus is based off of 3 components. It's using the raw OPS data we've now calculated. It includes ballpark factors, which we'll look at, as well as scales to league average. OPS plus has an average of 100 no matter what the scenario. Any batter that goes above that is above league average. Any hitter below 100 is below league average. So a player with a 110 OPS plus is 10% better than league average. a player with a 90 OPS plus would be 10% worse than league average. So this statistic is very useful in the ability to compare player to player very quickly because we know the average being 100 and comparing them player to player across the league. And it's also used across baseball in terms of comparing from one year to the next. And in the history of baseball, it's a better statistic to be able to compare the players of today to the players of yesteryear and talking in terms of 50s, 60s, 70s, or whatever decade you want to look at. Now, why is that so? It's because OPS Plus incorporates ballpark factor. And what is ballpark factor? Well, ballpark factor really is the ability to score runs in a particular ballpark. A ballpark factor is calculated by adding together the runs scored at a ballpark and dividing it by the runs scored away from a ballpark. So let's use an example. The Arizona Diamondbacks play at Chase Field, a place I visited this summer. It's one of the league average in terms of ballpark factor across Major League Baseball at this time. So how can you calculate ballpark factor at Chase Field? Well, when the Diamondbacks play there, we would count the runs scored by the Diamondbacks at Chase Field and add that together with the runs scored by their opponents at Chase Field. To calculate the other piece that we would need, we would add together the Diamondbacks runs scored at all other ballparks and add that together with the runs scored by other teams against the Diamondbacks in other ballparks. When you put it together, you take the runs scored at Chase Field, divide that by the runs scored away from Chase Field, and you have your ballpark factor. And that's one way to calculate OPS plus. So OPS plus can be calculated in this way by taking 100 multiply by the total of on base divided by league on base percentage, added that together with slugging percentage, divide by league slugging percentage, subtract 1, and take that value, divide by the ballpark factor. That will give you a calculation for OPS plus. Now, that's not the only particular way to calculate OPS plus. It can be done another way as well, which is even far more difficult and far more hands-on, using a lot more data, but does become a more accurate calculation of OPS plus. So the other way to calculate OPS plus is take 100, multiply that by, we have on-base percentage divide by league on-base percentage plus slugging divided by league slugging minus 1. In this one, we do not divide by ballpark factor because our league on-base percentage and league slugging percentage are calculated in a different way. They are the league averages for the batting environment in which the player created his individual on-base and slugging. So if we use Corbin Carroll as an example with the Arizona Diamondbacks and incorporate our Chase Field example, the league on-base percentage for Corbin Carroll would include, if he played all 162 games, would involve 81 games at Chase Field, plus the 7 or 8 games he plays at Dodger Stadium, plus the 7 or 8 games he plays at Giant Stadium, against the Padres, against the Rockies, etc., etc., etc. So when we calculate those values and use the on-base percentage of players in those ballparks, as well as the slugging percentages in those ballparks, we weight it depending upon where the player plays their games, and that would calculate our league on base and league slugging based off games of where Corbin Carroll would play his games. We would then use his statistics for on-base percentage and slugging percentage to calculate his OPS plus, depending upon where he plays his games. Now, that's a lot of numbers and a lot of statistics going into something like that. But if you want to try this out for yourself, I recommend the first way in trying to use ballpark factor. And when we look at ballpark factor, there are definitely stadiums that are known for having a large ballpark factor, which means they definitely score more runs in those ballparks as opposed to ballparks that give up fewer runs. It should come as no surprise that from 2021 to 2023, the best ballpark to score runs in Major League Baseball is Coors Field in Colorado. That's followed by Fenway Park in Boston and, of course, Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. These are the parks that are best known for scoring runs. And just like OPS plus, ballpark factor or park factor is situated over a 100-point scale. So the higher the number above 100, the more likely runs are scored at that ballpark, and the lower, the less runs scored at that ballpark. And you look at the flip side in terms of Major League Baseball stadiums that are used every single day. From 2021 to 2023, the most difficult ballpark to score runs in was T-Mobile Park in Seattle, then Petco Park in San Diego, as well as Citi Field in New York. Now, these will change over time, and ballpark factors will vary from year to year to some degree. Part of that is dependent upon the home team and how good a quality team they are and how well they score runs, as well as pitching staff, so how good a pitching staff is for a team. So it will change from time to time, and ballpark factors as well as OPS plus will change over decades. When we look at the history of OPS plus and compare decades, one of the best comparisons to look at the 1970s as compared to the 1990s. In the 1970s in Major League Baseball, there was a very low run scoring environment. So a player with an OPS of 800 or higher was a much more desired player in terms of offensive ability. And when you calculate it out, that comes out to roughly a 150 OPS plus, so 50 points higher than the average. In the 1990s, in particular the late 90s, early 2000s, when we had a high run scoring environment, particularly because of the steroid era, but other factors as well, a player with the 800 OPS would have an OPS plus calculated around 115 depending on ballpark factor, which is much lower even with the same OPS that is dependent upon the run scoring environment. So as a whole, OPS plus is all about distinguishing a player's ability to create runs in the environment that they're playing in, whether through walks, hits, singles, doubles. And the factor incorporates on base percentage and slugging percentage is very useful statistic because we understand those basic statistics in baseball lingo. Now, OPS Plus takes it farther because we can start to limit the park factor and how much that can attribute to a player, and it makes it a much more useful statistic. And it makes a very useful statistic to compare players of today to players of the past, and it's become something that's very much more involved in the baseball lingo of the day. And given you can calculate a couple of different ways using ballpark factor or the long-handed version of trying to come up with league on-base percentage and league slugging percentage based on the ballpark that a player plays in, it can be a complex calculation, but given that it's based on a scale out of 100, I think it's a very simple statistic to understand. Maybe not so much in terms of calculation, but certainly in terms of understanding as to how good that player is in the game of baseball today and how they compare to players of yesteryear. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of another video here on 3 Up, 3 Down. If you are into these kind of baseball analytics videos, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you comment down below what kind of statistic you'd like me to break down next in our journey into understanding baseball analytics. As always, make sure you leave a like on this video, share it with all your baseball friends, and make sure you go check out some of my previous videos talking about what each Major League Baseball team needs to complete their offseason, as well as some of my what if videos that I'll be adding to here in the future. Until next time, take care, everyone.